Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Buddhang namami, Dhammang namami, Sanghang namami. Homage Vada Bhante, Guru Bhante, Bhikkhu Sangh. Metta to Upas Samnera, Nagarika, Upasakas and Upasikas. Once again, welcome to Sunday evening program. Happy to see all of you this evening. And as we gather every Sunday, it is another Sunday, and it is a program that helps us to regain our own understanding, peace, stability of our mind, of our practice. So now is the time to listen to some words of the Buddha so that we get some understanding, some clarity from the Buddha's own word. So today, this sutta, Discourses, is it's Bodhi Raja Kumara Sutta, which was given to a prince named Bodhi. So at that time Buddha was in a place called Bagga, in a forest called Besakala in North India. And at that time, Prince Bodhi had built a house for himself. Now, this sutta, before I go into the sutta, I would like to tell that this sutta is given by Buddha to tell that it is not necessary for us to go through pain or difficulty in order to get happiness. So that is the reason for today's teaching, that pain or torture, all of these are not mandatory for somebody to achieve happiness. So Prince Bodhi, he sends his student Sanjika Putta, and he tells him to go to Buddha and invite. He says, "Please, dear Sanjika Putta, go to the Buddha and in my name bow with your heads to his feet. Ask him if he is healthy and well, nimble, strong, and living comfortably. And then ask him whether he might accept tomorrow's meal from me together with the Sangha, Bhikkhu Sangha." So he sends his student to invite Buddha for his basically housewarming, Griha Pravesha. Right? So he's inviting Buddha for the housewarming. So he goes to Buddha and then he invites the Buddha for his housewarming. And then he prepares everything, and then he puts some white cloth, all the way till the staircase, all everywhere. So he says to Buddha, while receiving the Buddha, he says, "Sir, let the Blessed One ascend on the cloth. Let the Holy One ascend on the cloth. It will be for my lasting welfare and happiness." So this is what he says. He asked the Buddha to walk on the white cloth that he put to receive the Buddha. And he says, but Buddha doesn't walk on the white cloth. Second time, third time he does that, and he requests 3 times, but Buddha still doesn't go. And then Buddha looks at the Ananda Bhante, who was Buddha's personal attendant, and here he tells, then Ananda Bhante tells Prince, fall up the cloth, Prince, the Buddha will not step upon white cloth. The realized one has sympathy for future generation. So Ananda Bhante kind of tells that Buddha wants, to have a maybe simple kind of reception, not very much, not like a grand or things like that, So for whatever reason, Buddha doesn't work, Then Buddha goes inside, have food and everything, and with all the monks in Prince Bodhi's home. And then Prince Bodhi, he asked the Buddha, he says, he takes a seat and said, Sir, this is what I think. Pleasure is not gained through pleasure. Pleasure is gained through pain. As we say, right? No pain, no gain, something like that. Right? So he says to the Buddha, I think that, you don't get pleasure or happiness by happiness, but you get it through pain. For you to get some happiness or pleasure, you have to go through some kind of a pain or hardship. So that's what he thinks, right? So this is what his question is. And I think it is a very important question because every one of us in some way thinks that to gain something you have to go through some difficulty, some problem, some kind of a tough and extreme or hardship, something like that, And sometimes when you have happiness and you know that you can gain more happiness, then you think, oh, maybe I am on the wrong path. Maybe I am too much in a comfortable zone. We speak about being in a comfort zone, right? So that's what this question is. So let us see this question, because based on this question, the whole teaching today, So very important. Those of us who have a view that it is very important to go through some difficulty, pain, in order to get happiness. If we have such a view, so let us hear what Buddha has to say. And then Buddha tells about his own experience. So from now on, all the way, because Buddha was also a prince, as you all know. He was the prince of Sakya. And he tells about his own journey toward becoming a Buddha, toward basically achieving Buddhahood, awakening, enlightenment. You can call it Buddha means awakening, achieving that enlightenment or the ultimate happiness. So how he achieves that, his journey. So let us hear this so that we know how Buddha kind of, he went through all these different experiences and how he too went through certain difficulty, put himself into some difficulty, but eventually found that what he went through was not necessary. It was not necessary, and it was something which was wrong. So Buddha's own journey here. So he says that before my awakening, when I was still unawakened, but intent on awakening, I too thought. So before he was awakened, before he was Buddha, he also thought the same thing. What the Bodhi was now thinking, this Prince Bodhi. So he thought the same thought. Sometime later, while still with pristine black hair, blessed with youth, in the prime of life, Though my mother and father wished for otherwise, weeping with tearful faces, I shaved off my hair and beard, dressed in ochre robe, and went forth from the lay life to homelessness. Once I had gone forth, I set out to discover what is skillful, seeking the supreme state of sublime peace. I approached Alara Kalama and said to him, Reverend Kalama, I wish to lead the spiritual life in this teaching and training. So he says that when he was still young, so he was 29, right, at that time. He was young and he was, everything was good. So in the case of Buddha, it's not necessarily that he had to go through some kind of a episode, some kind of a event in his life to become a monk, right? So everything was good. He had a good family, he was a prince, he had everything, educated, everything. He was young, healthy, had a wife, had a child, but still he was thinking for something higher, something better, some kind of happiness to look for, right? So because the reason I'm telling you this is that in many cases people think that to become a monk, one should really go through some difficulty, right? One should really go through some tough or very challenging or some thing happen, then you become a monk. Generally we think like that. Or once you are retired, once you are done with your thing, you are 60-year-old, then you become monk. That's the general perception, a lot of people think. But Buddha was not old. He didn't have any difficulty. Some people have this thinking that there was some kind of a political issue that he had, and then he left home. No, that is not the reason. So he left home because he wanted to achieve some higher happiness, right? Because as I said, he was experiencing all the happiness of pleasure, you can call it, of life, but that was not giving him complete happiness. And as we all know, right, you can have all the pleasures in life, you can have all the houses, car, relationship, everything, health, but you can still be not happy, right? So which means that happiness doesn't necessarily come from all the pleasures and all the houses, external possessions, everything. It cannot come, right? If it comes, then Buddha did not have to become a monk, because he had everything and he had no any difficulty. He was young, he was married, he had a child and everything. But at the same time, we are not telling everyone to become a monk, but what we are telling is that happiness has to be found inside of you. Even though the external possessions are necessary, but they are not necessarily be the only source of your happiness. It's not going to be that way. So you don't need to be a monk. All of doesn't need to be monk. You can be in the lay life, but you can still be happy. But as I said, just the having a possessions, you can't, relationship and possessions, you can't be totally happy. You need to really work with yourself inside. That is what we are trying to say. So what Buddha did, he shaved off his hair, he put on this kind of orange color robe, because that was the culture of India even today, that anybody wants to become monk, they put on this orange color cloth. So Buddha also did the same thing, because the Samana tradition was already there, right? It's not like Buddha started. The tradition of becoming a monk was already there, right, in the white orange cloth. So he did that, and then he went to a teacher called Alara Kalama. So there was this teacher called Alara Kalama. So he went under him to become a monk, and he said, in your teaching and training, I want to train myself. He said, okay. So he says, Alara Kalama says, stay venerable. This teaching is such that a sensible person can soon realize their own tradition with their own insight and live having achieved it. So he said, he says that this is for somebody who is sensible, right? So the Shramana tradition, the ascetic tradition. So in India, there were actually 6 different teachers at that time, and all of them were not necessarily following one religion or one tradition or one practice. Everybody had their own different views, right? So we didn't have like one religion in India. 6 were there. So like that, Alara Kalama being one. So then Buddha, what he did, I quickly memorized that teaching. As far as lip recital and verbal repetition went, I spoke the doctrine of knowledge, the elder doctrine. I claimed to know and see, and so did others. Then it occurred to me, it's not solely by mere faith that Alara Kalama declared, I realized this teaching with my own insight and live having achieved it. Surely he meditates knowing and seeing this teaching. So I approached Alara Kalama and said to him, Reverend Kalama, to what extent do you say that you realize this teaching with your own insight? When I said this, he declared dimension of nothingness. Then it occurred to me, it's not just Alara Kalama who has faith, energy, mindfulness, immersion, and wisdom. I too have this thing. Why don't I make an effort to realize the same teaching that Alara Kalama says? He has realized with his own insight. I quickly realized that teaching with my own insight, and I live having achieved it. So I approached Alara Kalama and said to him, Reverend Kalama, is it up to this point that you realize this teaching with your own insight and declare having achieved it? I have, Reverend. I too have realized this teaching with my own insight up to this point and live having achieved it. So Alara Kalama had achieved what is called the 7th jhana, the 7th dhyana. So he achieved, Alara Kalama has achieved a very deep, higher form of meditative achievement, which is called nothingness. That is very higher kind of a state of mind, but he had not yet achieved the freedom of mind totally, right? So he achieved a higher meditation, because there are meditation, you have different levels of meditation, right? You achieve different, like for example, in our own day-to-day life, we achieve some peace in meditation, some stability. But with meditation, you can achieve a deep state of meditation, and similar to the Brahmas, the Arupa Brahmas, their level of mind, right? So, and once you achieve that, you will be born among the Brahmas. But then these Brahmas are still not free, right? They are still in the samsara, though they live for millions of billions of years in Brahma world, but one day they too have to die, and they are still not, they are attached to that state of Brahma world. They are not totally free. So what he says, Alara Kalama, he says, now, Buddha achieved this, whatever Alara Kalama achieved in a very short span of time. He achieved everything that Alara Kalama achieved. So Alara Kalama says, you are like me only, now you stay with me, and you can be a teacher with me. So, but then Buddha was not satisfied, because he wanted the ultimate freedom of mind, the ultimate happiness, but which he didn't get there. So he left him. Then he goes to another teacher called Uddaka Ramaputta, Uddaka son of Rama. There was a teacher called Uddaka who was the son of Rama. So he goes to him, and then he, again the same thing, but he had achieved a little more higher, So what is called the highest Brahma state of mind, right? In terms of samsara, the highest state of mind. So now you see, our mind can go to different level, right? It can go to the animal level, it can go to the very hell level, it can go up to the highest divine level, what we call Brahmas, right? So our mind can go like this, up and down, right? Up on the divine, or down to the hell. It can go like that based on our own practices. It can go like that. So Uddaka Ramaputta, he achieved the highest level of the divinity. But then Buddha realized, and Buddha also achieved the same under him. And he found that though it is a very higher, purer compared to human life, it is very pure and very higher and very blissful, but it was not still total freedom. It is temporary. I mean, temporary in the sense not like few days or few months, but it can be for billions of years. Yeah, right here the temporary means in terms of million and billions of time. But Buddha saw that it is still a temporary, right? So he found that, and then he said, can I know more? Then Uddaka Ramaputta says, no, this much I know. So then Buddha is again not satisfied, and then he leaves Uddaka Ramaputta. Then he comes to a place called Uruvela, which is in the present day Gaya district, North India, Bihar state, in Uruvela, So he went, and then I set out to discover what is skillful, seeking the supreme state of sublime peace, traveling stage by stage in the Magadhan land. I arrived at the town of Sena in Uruvela. There I saw a delightful park, a lovely grove with a flowing river, and was clean and charming with smooth bank. And nearby was a village to resort to for alms. Then it occurred to me, this park is truly delightful, a lovely grove with a flowing river that's clean and charming with smooth bank. And nearby there is a village to resort to for alms. This is good enough for striving for a gentleman wanting to strive. So I sat down right there thinking, this is good enough for striving. And these three similes, which were neither supernaturally inspired nor learned before in the past, occurred to me. So then Buddha left Uddaka Ramaputta, and then he again started traveling from place to place, searching for enlightenment, for the ultimate, what he calls disillusionment, dispassion, cessation, peace, insight, awakening, extinguishment. It only leads. So he was looking for a ultimate, perfect kind of solution for the human problem, or you can say human suffering, right? So he was looking for that. He was actually searching for that. So as he went by, he arrived in this village, Sena. It was a nice village, as you say in the description. There was nice water, a river with beautiful trees and banks and nice village. So he just thought, I will stay there so that I can go for the village for food, and then I can meditate whole day. I can just, keep meditating. So then, as he was there, three similes came in his mind. Three similes, three examples or something came in his mind. The first is called the wet green log in water. The wet green log. Log, as you know, the wood which is in the river. A big wood which is in the river, that is log. Suppose there was a green sappy log and it was lying in water. Then a person comes along with a drill stick, thinking to light a fire and produce heat. What do you think, Prince? By drilling the stick against that green sappy log lying in water, could they light a fire and produce heat? No, sir. Why is that? Because it's a green sappy log and it's lying in the water. That person will eventually get weary and frustrated. In the same way, there are ascetics and Brahmins who don't live withdrawn in body and mind from sensual pleasures. They haven't internally given up or still desire, affection, infatuation, thirst, and passion for sensual pleasures. Regardless of whether or not they suffer painful, sharp, severe, acute feeling because of their effort, they are incapable of knowledge and vision of supreme awakening. This was the first example that occurred to me. So this log, which is in the water, and somebody comes and open the log with axe, basically, and then try to light it, try to put a fire, but it won't because the wood is wet, it can't. So Buddha is saying, it came in mind, if somebody who is not, especially it is for, say, ascetics and Brahmins, which means people who are spiritual people, right? So if they are not withdrawn from sensual pleasures or affection, patience, all of these things, then it's like this wet wood. It won't take fire. It won't take fire. It is useless. So in the same way, if we are, and it is also for not just for monk, for every one of us, if we are too much drawn in sensual pleasures, in the pleasures of life, if you are too much after the pleasures, addiction, then thinking that sensual pleasures is going to give you happiness, then it's not going to give you happiness. It is not going to give you knowledge or. And what is important here is regardless of whether or not they are painful. So even if whether you achieve any pain or any kind of bodily difficulty or suffering, you will still not gain understanding, because the question is, remember the question was, is it necessary for us to go through some pain or difficulty to achieve wisdom? That was the question, right? So Buddha is saying that if you don't give up these sensual pleasures, running after all the time, then you are not going to gain wisdom. You are not going to gain happiness, right? Whether or not you go through some difficulty. So just by going through some difficulty, you will not gain wisdom, right? Just by going through some difficulty in life. Sometimes we think, I went through so much difficulty, so I have this wisdom. If you think like that, that's not going to happen. So the next simile is the wet green log on dry land. Then a second example occurred to me. Suppose there was a green sappy log and it was lying on dry land far from the water. Then a person comes along with a drill stick, thinking to light a fire and produce heat. What do you think, Prince? By drilling the stick against that green sappy log on dry land far from water, could they light a fire and produce heat? No, sir. Why is that? Because it's still a green sappy log, despite the fact that it's lying on dry land far from water. That person will eventually get weary. So now the second simile is still a wet green log, but on a dry land. The first one was in the water, right? So if it is a wet log, wet wood, but you take it on a dry land and you try to light it, still it will not get lit, because it is still a wet wood. So Buddha is saying, in the same way, there are ascetics and Brahmins who live withdrawn in body and mind from sensual pleasure, but they haven't internally given up or still desire affection, infatuation, thirst, and passion for sensual pleasure, regardless of whether or not they suffer painful, sharp, severe, acute feeling because of their effort. They are incapable of knowledge and vision of supreme awakening. This was the second example that occurred to me. Now there is some ascetics and Brahmins, some monk and Brahmin sadhus or practitioner who are far from sensual pleasure, who are not involved in physically, mentally, but then the desire is still there. It is not still put down. So even though you are not enjoying, you are not engaged in sensual pleasure, but you still have a desire. What is the desire? Thinking that, sensual pleasure must be the way to happiness. Basically, it's the perception, it's a view that sensual pleasure is the way for happiness. Sensual pleasure is still the way to happiness. So then, whether or not you suffer some physical pain, you will not still gain wisdom, understanding, or awakening, or enlightenment, or freedom. You are not going to get, because you still think that maybe sensual pleasure is the way. Now, this is the second one. And the third simile is the dry log and a dry log on dry land. Okay, so now a similar thing, but a dry wood in a dry land. So what does that mean? So Buddha is saying, in the same way, there are ascetic Brahmin who live withdrawn in body and mind from sensual pleasures, and they have internally given up and still desire affection, infatuation, thirst, and passion for sensual pleasure, regardless of whether they are not again. So they have, first of all, kept themselves far away from sensual pleasures, and also inside their own mind, they have also let go of this desire for sensual pleasures, right? So then, what happens is they are capable of knowledge and vision and supreme awakening. So they are capable. They are eligible to gain knowledge and vision, to gain enlightenment, to gain freedom, to gain ultimate happiness, right? So these three simile came to his mind, just like that came in his mind. We don't know from where it came, but that's what Buddha said. It just came in his mind. So he is in this village with this simile in his mind. Then it occurred to me, why don't I eat? Why don't I, with teeth clenched and tongue pressed against the roof of my mouth, squeeze, squash, and scorch mine with mine? So that's what I did, until sweat ran from my armpits. It was like when a strong man grabs a weaker man by the head or throat or shoulder and squeezes, squashes, and crushes them. In the same way, with teeth clenched and tongue pressed against the roof of my mouth, I squeezed, squashed, and crushed my mind with mine until sweat ran from my armpits. My energy was roused up and unflagging, and my mindfulness was established and lucid, but my body was disturbed, not tranquil, because I pushed too hard with that painful striving. So what he's trying to do now is trying to say, now you see the simile, so he wants to try to keep himself away from the sensual desire, desire for sensuality. So he's trying to do that, because now he thinks he has to free himself from that. So what he did, he just kind of force his body, right? Force his body like very much, just tightening himself and just pushed himself, and then try to try to free himself from any kind of desire. So he became quite mindful, as he says here, but the body was painful. Body was not supporting. So like this, you can like this, okay? So this is what Buddha did. Imagine, before he became a Buddha, he did all this kind of thing. It's very funny, right? like this. Okay? Imagine Buddha doing that. Just imagine. Before he became so, a lot of crazy thing he did before he was Buddha. And this is from his own mouth. Then it occurred to me, why don't I practice the breathlessness observation? So I cut off my breathing through my mouth and nose, but then wind came out. Out my ears, making a loud noise like the puffing of a blacksmith balloons. My energy was roused up and unflagging. My mindfulness was established and lucid, but my body was disturbed, not tranquil, because I had pushed too hard with that painful striving. So now what he did, he was not able to, gain whatever he was looking for. So he stopped his breath through the mouth and the nose. But the wind went through his ear. Okay, his wind kind of top like this, like a sound. It is cup like through the ear, and then he again, the body was disturbed. Then what he did, again he even even he closed his ear too, right? That's what he did. So he had a lot of pain, but the severe wind ground my head like a strong man was drilling into my head with a sharp point. So when he closed his ear, it was like somebody drilling his head. It was so painful because he stopped all the breath, including the ears. He was mindful, but then his body was disturbed. Then what he did, these are all called breathless meditation. We are doing now breathing meditation, but he was doing no breath meditation, breathless meditation. This is all before he was a Buddha, right? So it disturbed. Then what he did, then it occurred to me, why don't I keep practicing the breathless absorption? So I cut off my breath through my mouth and nose and ear, but then I got a severe headache. Okay, this I already told. Then it occurred, why don't I keep practicing the breathless? So I cut off my breathing through my mouth and nose and ear, but then severe wind curved my belly. Okay, so he had many, he kept still doing, and then he had a headache, he had some problem in his belly, like a deft butcher or their apprentice was slicing my belly open. So he felt like somebody, a butcher, cutting meat, something like that. He had that kind of a pain. Then what he did is, then what happened is he felt, but there was a severe burning in my body, like two strong men grabbing a weaker man by the arms to burn and scorch him on a pit of glowing coals. So then it was like two men, pushing him. So there was a lot of burning in the body, So basically he stopped his breath, for a long time. He won't allow himself to die, but he was stopping his breath, and he was doing this, right? Then some deities saw him and said, the ascetic Gautama is dead. Others said he is not dead, but he is dying. Others said he is not dead or dying. The ascetic Gautama is a perfect one. For that, how the perfect one lived. So these the different devas who were in that jungle, right? In that village, they were saying, somebody say, he's dead, he's not dying. All of these things that you hear, they commented, right? Then it occurred to me, why don't I practice completely cutting off food? So now, breath is not working. No, breath stopping the breath. Breathless meditation is not working. So what he did, he thought of not eating. So what he thought, why don't I practice completely cutting off my food? Let me not eat at all. But deities came to me and said, good fellow, don't practice total cutting of food. If you do, we will infuse heavenly nectar into your pores and you will live on that. Then it occurred to me, if I claim to be completely fasting while these deities are infusing heavenly nectar in my pore, that would be like a lie on my part. So I realized those deities, so I refused those deities, saying there is no need. So when he thought that I will completely cut off my food, so some devas, they said, if you cut off your food, we will put food inside you. Like we will put like a divine, what we call the nectar, the divine thing into thing. So Buddha thought that, okay, so that won't be good, because to the world I will be saying I'm not eating, but then these devas will give me food, so it will be like deceiving the world, so it will not be a good thing. So he said, don't do that, don't put food in my body. So he said that. Then it occurred to me, why don't I just take a little bit of food each time, a handful of broth made from mung beans, horse gram, chickpeas, or green gram. So that's what I did until my body became severely emaciated. So he took very little food, and he became very thin. Due to eating so little, my major and minor limbs became like a joint of an 80-year-old or a dying man. So, his joints become like a 80-year-old person. My bottom became like a camel hoof. My butt, became like a camel foot. My vertebrae stuck out like a beads on a string. So like a beads, like a mala. His vertebrae, the backbone, became like a mala, like we do japa, right? Something like it was visible. And my ribs were as gaunt as a broken down rafter on an old barn. So his ribs were looking like a house, like a home without a roof, just the wood, what do you call those? Not the plaster, but just, you can say, just the rod. Something like that. Due to eating so little, the gleam of my eyes sank deep into their socket like the gleam of a water sunk deep down a well. His eyes went so down, like in the well, you see some stone. You can see the stone in the wells. It went so down. Due to eating so little, my scalp shriveled and withered like a green, bitter ground in the wind and sun. So due to eating so little, my skin of my belly stuck to my backbone, so that when I tried to rub the skin of my belly, I grabbed my backbone. When he was touching his belly, he can touch his backbone. It was like that, rubbing. When I tried to urinate or defecate, I fell face down right there. When he tried to go to toilet, he just fell down. He would just fall down. Due to eating so little, when I tried to relieve my body by rubbing my limbs with my hand, the hair rotted as its roots fell out. When he was rubbing his hand or limb, hair will just fall down. Then some people saw me and said, the ascetic Gautama is black. Some said he is not black, he is brown. Some said he is neither black nor brown. The ascetic Gautama has dingy skin. That's how far the pure, bright complexion of my skin had been ruined by taking so little food. So he was so much that his body color was not known, right? Whether he looks black or brown or white or whatever, nobody was sure what color he is because of not eating. Then it occurred to me, whatever ascetics and Brahmins have experienced painful, sharp, severe, acute feeling due to overexertion, whether in the past, future, and present, this is as far as it goes. No one has done more than this, but I have not achieved any superhuman distinction, knowledge, and vision worthy of the noble ones. By this severe, grueling work, could there be another path to awakening? So he did it to the max, right? He says that nobody in the past, nobody did like what he did. The fasting, this kind of upavasa, almost what we call the living skeleton. He was looking like a living skeleton, like totally, right? So he didn't get anything. He didn't get any kind of knowledge, any kind of wisdom, nothing. So he thought, is there any other way? This doesn't look like the way, right? Then it occurred to me, I recall sitting in the cool shade of a black plum tree with my father. The Sakyan was off working, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unskillful quality. I remain in the first absorption. So now then he recollects when he was very young, he just said, it was actually plowing festival. So everybody was busy in the festival. So he was alone and he was just sitting under a tree, and he just went into some deep meditation when he was just a child, right? So he remembered that, and then he in fact achieved first jhana as well, and that came to his mind. So he thought, I think this should be the way, this should be the way. So then he started taking. I can't achieve that pleasure with the body so severely emaciated. Why don't I eat some solid food, some rice and porridge? So I ate some solid food. So then he started taking some food. He thought that, just not taking food is not the way. So he started taking food, and then he became better. And at that time, there were 6 monks under him, So those monks, they saw him, and then they thought, oh, he's not practicing. He has left the practice. So they just left him, and then he was alone. And then what he did, he did this meditation, and then he achieved deep samadhi. And then after deep samadhi, he recollected many of his past life. So many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 20, 100,000, and many eons of world contracting, many eons of world expanding, many eons of world contracting, expanding. And so I recollected many kinds of past life with future details. This was the first knowledge. So then he saw many of his past life, so many past life, and then he understood his own past life, and then he saw how his mind worked, what are the karma he did, everything. And then he meditated deeper, and then he knew how suffering comes, how suffering arises and passes away, and then he eventually got the knowledge and wisdom through looking at his own past life. So looking at the past life was something very revealing for him, and he got that understanding. He understood the suffering because after seeing many past life, right, he got an idea of our human life, how our human life starts and goes, what are the karma we do, and how we gain happiness, how do we get caught up in our own karma. Everything he understood by looking at his past karma, past life, and then he understood that it is our own ignorance and craving for this existence itself, that we are suffering. So basically, we are suffering because we are holding on to things. It is as simple as that. You may think, looking at past life, there must be something very deep, but very simple. What he understood is that we are holding on to things, right? We are holding on to many things, right? But keep in mind that he is not saying that, he's not saying that this is bad, that is bad, or people are bad, or relationship is bad, or things are bad, house is bad. He's not telling that. He's telling we are holding. He doesn't say don't own a home. He doesn't say don't marry or don't have children. He's saying when we are holding, it is when we are holding to what? To things, to our own view, perception, feeling, to our identity, then we are suffering. This is what he understood after looking many lives. And it's not like some 1,000 life, or he saw like this our earth itself, how it kind of go through different phase. We speak about yuga, no, different yuga, Kali yuga, this yuga, but he saw like many yugas, how our earth at one time it kind of just sort of decline, and again it comes up, and again human life starts, and how it ends, everything, like this whole universe, the whole universe, how it goes, how it declines, and how evolve, everything. So he understood, he saw the whole cosmic experience, the whole universal, how it is working. He saw it basically, right, through his deep meditation. And it is not just for Buddha. It's anybody can, who goes deep into meditation can see it, right? So then he understood, and then he just sort of focused his mind, and he understood, and he meditated by just letting go of any holding onto anything, and eventually his holding nature just dropped forever. When it just dropped forever, he was enlightened. And he was enlightened, he was a Buddha, he was free, and it's forever, right? It's not like a temporary letting go, it's letting go forever inside his mind, right? So he becomes a Buddha there. Then, of course, he didn't want to teach, because he thought that this Dhamma I have discovered is deep, hard to see, hard to understand, peaceful, sublime, beyond the scope of logic, subtle, comprehensible to the astute, to the wise. But people like clinging, they love it and enjoy it. It's hard for them to see this topic, that is specific conditionality, dependent origination. It's hard for them to see this topic, that is the stilling of all activities, the letting go of all attachment, the ending of craving, fading away, cessation, extinguishment. And if I were to teach this principle, others might not understand me, which could be very and troublesome for me. So he thought that my teaching is so deep, so subtle, people will not understand. Because people always love to attach, to hold, always love to attach, attachment, me. And this is what people are. So people will not understand. That's what he thought, right? Then what happened? Brahma Sahampati. He read the Buddha's mind. He said that. Then what he says, he comes and said, among the Magadhans there appear in the past an impure teaching thought. So basically he comes and requests, he says that there are some people who will understand, right? It's not like everybody will not understand. There are some people who have little dust in their eyes. Buddha says some people have little dust in their eyes. They will understand it. So then Buddha focus his mind toward the people, and he says people are at different level, like a water lily in blue water, right? Lily flower inside. Some are inside, deep inside. Some are in the middle. Some are at the surface. Some are outside the surface. So people are different level. He understood, right? So otherwise, Buddha thought, I will not teach, right? But the Brahma comes and says, oh, there are some people who will understand, right? Then Buddha accepts to teach, and then he thought whom to teach. So he thought first, I will teach Alara Kalama, his first teacher. But then one Deva comes and tells him, he just passed away 1 week ago. So he thought, and because he achieved the 7th jhana, he is reborn in a Brahma world, and there he cannot reach because they cannot hear us, right? It's a beyond the sensory world. It's a different world. You cannot reach there. Then he thought Uddaka Rama Putta, Uddaka son of Rama. But then somebody told, he just passed last night, so you cannot teach him, right? He as well. Then he thought, I will maybe teach the 5 monks who were with him. So he saw them, they were in Sarnath near Varanasi, near Benares. So he said, I will go and teach them, right? So then on the way, he met one monk called Upaka, and he asked him, who are you? Who is your teacher? And Buddha tells that I don't have any teacher, I am the teacher, something like that he says. But he says, okay, maybe true. And he doesn't much listen to Buddha, he left. But later, this same Upaka comes back to Buddha after many years, and then he understands Buddha's teaching. So that's one. And then he goes to Varanasi, and then he teaches the 5 ascetic first. But initially they were not listening to him, because they thought that he has stopped the fasting, so they thought he is not a Buddha. So the Buddha said, did I ever tell you before that I achieved Buddhahood? I didn't. So then they were a little bit, they started listening, and then eventually they all kind of achieve. Those were the 5 ascetics who eventually became a, they all achieve the freedom, arahant, they became. Then this is what the Buddha tells, and then the Prince Bodhi asked the Buddha, Sir, when a mendicant has realized once as a trainer, how long it will take for them to realize the supreme end of spiritual path in this? Now it's very, again, important question. So he says, now Buddha is telling everyone, right? Buddha is telling his story to Prince Bodhi. Now the first question is over, right? What was the first question? That is it necessary for us to go through some difficulty to realize the truth or realize happiness or gain happiness? Buddha said, not necessary, because he tells his own story. Then he says, then the second question is like, how long it takes for somebody to achieve enlightenment, right? This was the question, This question I also sometimes get from people, how long it will take for me to become enlightened. It's a very much asked question. Huh? Then Buddha gave him Buddha said, okay, I will answer you, but I will answer you with the simile of elephant goat simile, right? So Buddha tells him, I will give you a simile and you can answer whatever way. So Buddha said, what do you think, Prince? Suppose a man were to come along thinking, Prince Bodhi knows the art of wielding a hook goat while riding an elephant. I will train in that art under him. So the Prince Bodhi had some kind of a elephant riding skill or something. He was very expert in that, right? So somebody comes and they want to learn from him. So if he is faithless, if he wouldn't achieve, then he wouldn't achieve what he could with faith. If he is unhealthy, he wouldn't achieve that what he could with a good health. If he is devious or deceitful, he wouldn't achieve what he could with honesty and integrity. If he is lazy, he wouldn't achieve what he would with energy. If he is stupid, he wouldn't achieve that what he could with wisdom. What do you think, Prince? Could that man still train under you in the art of wielding a hook goat while riding an elephant? Sir, if he had even a single one of these factors, he couldn't train under me, let alone all 5. So Buddha said that if somebody comes to you to learn an art of riding an elephant, right? How to ride an elephant, some kind of special skill. So if that person who is basically you can use it for any kind of training. So in the training, if you don't have faith in the trainer, right? When you are getting a training, any kind of training, elephant training, horse training, whatever, yoga training or whatever training, right? Or including pilot training, you can say, right? These days, the modern, we don't have elephant now, we have pilot now, right? So if you have to have faith in the trainer, somebody who's training you, right? If you don't have faith, you can't train. If you are not healthy, you can't. If you are deceitful, if you are not honest, no. If you are lazy, no. If you are stupid, you are not trying to understand, no. So if you have this quality, it's not possible, right? So Buddha is saying in the same way, if people have this quality, then they can't. But if they have this quality, good opposite of this, which is faith, healthy, and honest, faith, health, and honest, and energetic, which means hardworking and wise. Then only you can train somebody. So this is what Buddha said. So he said in the same way, you need to have 5 things, in order to achieve what Buddha has achieved, right? So Buddha is saying what I have achieved, you can achieve if you have 5 things, which is first of all faith. So you have to have faith in the Buddha. How? The Buddha is a perfect one, fully awakened one, accomplished knowledge and conduct, knower of the world, supreme guide for those for training, teachers of gods and human awakened. So you need to have a faith, in the Buddha, and you should be healthy. You should be more. Everybody gets ill, but they are rarely ill or unwell. So you have to be healthy most of the time. Their stomach digests well, being neither too hot nor too cold, but just right and fit for meditation. So your digestive system should be well. Today we hear about gut health, something like that. So you have to be, your stomach should be good. They are not devious or deceitful, so you should not be deceiving. You should be honest. They revere themselves honestly to the teacher or sensible spiritual companion. So you have respect for your teacher and other people who are practicing, other co-student or whatever. They live with energy, rose up for giving up unskillful qualities and embracing skillful qualities. So you make an effort to give up wrong qualities, wrong thought, and developing good thought. They're strong, staunchy, vigorous, not slacking off when it comes to developing skillful qualities. They're wise. They have the wisdom of arising and passing away, which is noble, penetrative. So here wisdom means what? To know that everything is passing away, everything is rising and falling. Nothing is static, nothing is stable, nothing is permanent. So that is the wisdom. So you always look at that. So when you have this, then Buddha is saying that that they can achieve in 7 years, but then say they can also in 6 years, then in 1 year also, and in 1 year also. Then he says 1 month, then 7 months, or even 1 day. So which means there is no, you can achieve very early or you can be late, but maximum he is saying 7 years. In 7 years you can achieve if you have this kind of a quality which Buddha mentioned. Okay, so then Prince Bodhi, he says, oh the Buddha, oh the teaching, oh how well explained the teaching, for someone could be instructed at dusk and achieve distinction at daybreak, or be instructed at daybreak and achieve at dusk. So he said, oh, somebody can just listen in the morning and by evening they can be enlightened, right? It can be that fast also. So then he goes to refuge to the Buddha. He goes to he goes for refuge to Buddha, which means he takes Buddha as his teacher. Okay, so with this story, of course, the 2 questions again, right, which is no need of extreme, right? You don't need to trouble yourself. You don't need to give some kind of a hardship on yourself in order to achieve happiness, enlightenment. You can achieve without giving any difficulty. And secondly, if you are faithful, if you are honest, hardworking, all of the quality that the Buddha mentioned, then you can achieve enlightenment. Maximum 7 years, minimum 1 day. This is the, according to Buddha, maximum 7 years, minimum one day. Okay, so this is the clarity of what Buddha said, and you can see Buddha tells his own story of how he kind of went through his own search for enlightenment, and what are all the things that he did, all the different experiments that he did, and all the different teachers that he met along the way, and then finally he became enlightened. And in short, enlightenment means when we are able to let go, when we are able to let go, not just sensual pleasure, but the holding, to ourself, to our own view, to our own identity, and to our own, say, feelings, or our past, or our future, or anything, right? It's like you don't hold on to anything. That is the way. But this is something we can practice, of course, in our day-to-day life. But what we see here is, of course, through Buddha's own, this thing is, of course, he saw the many past life, So I think even though we may not be able to see the past life at this point, but we can also get a sense that what we currently hold on to are not going to be there, right? After a point, it is not going to be there. So we can, because of that. I mean, when this is the thing, so when this is a reality, we don't so much hold on to whatever we currently possess or hold, or possess, hold, or whatever, right? Whether it is external, internal, so we don't hold on to anything. That much I think we can take away, and then we just see for yourself how much it kind of help us to be happier, because our journey doesn't necessarily need to be exactly like the Buddha, right? Because Buddha's journey is different. He's the one who was the discoverer, right? That's the first discoverer. So he has to go through all of that. So we don't need to go through all of that like the Buddha, but we can get a sense that as much as possible we let go, and we don't hold on to things, and we don't get addicted to sensual pleasures, different kind of pleasures that we run after, and then we can be much more happier. We can happier, and we can be much more freer. Because when we talk about enlightenment, Buddhahood, it's nothing but letting go and become much more free. Letting go and become much free. How much you can let go, and how much you can, and then how much free you can become internally. So that's a simple way, in just 2 words, right? Letting go and be free. So after reading all this thing today, what we are hearing, we can come to the conclusion that we have to practice this letting go and become much more free internally, right? Because you can see Buddha mentioning that some people they do maybe not engaging in sensual pleasures, but then they are not letting go, their own views, their own thing, their own past or their own future. They are thinking that there must be something there in the pleasures, right? So it's not just about giving up the sensual pleasure, but at the same time, you give up the very future, even the future desire, even the very perception that sensual pleasure is going to give me happiness, right? So you let go of that, right? And as I said, this it's not, you don't need to be a monk to do that. When we talk about not giving up, it doesn't mean you give up everything. You don't need to, but the desire you give up, right? It is the desire you give up. Of course, even at the level of at the grosser level, of course, you might say give your thing, your time, your whatever to others. That's there, but then internally it has to be your not holding on to whatever you think is yours, and thinking that this is impermanent, this is changing, right? So this is what we get through this, and then as Buddha said, we need to be energetic in this, which means we need to meditate as well, and we need to follow at least certain kind of for the lay people, the 5 precepts are there. They should they should stick to that as well. They should train themselves in that as well, and then being healthy. Yeah, one of the thing I don't know, today I came across here is something very important. It's about the health, right? It's very precisely mentioned here that health and your digestive system. So keep priority your health and your gut health, your digestive system. Set it right somehow, right? Find a way to just put your health on track, including your digestive system. So you shouldn't become ill very often, because if you get ill too often, then most of your time just goes into it, right? So somehow find a way. So that's why I always tell people, do some exercise, do some yoga, do some walk, get some sunlight, eat on time, sleep on time, take care of your health, and not with the intention that I'm going to be great or something like that, but just it is important for you to be happy, right? So in today's time, we see people very much being so busy in their life that they neglect health. So it's very important, because not just for your day-to-day life, even for the spiritual gaining, you need to set your health right, and your gut health also, because Buddha mentioned that as well, and then the wisdom that everything is changing. One of the reflection Buddha says is to always think about I'm subject to birth, aging, sickness, separation from beloved people, and I am the owner of my karma. So this is something Buddha always tells us to think about, right? So that we are wise and we don't waste our time, and we are not we are not just distracted. We are on the track. We are on the track, not just in our life, but in our worldly life, but also for the spiritual goal. So this is some reflection for all of you to think about it and to reflect on it, and try to practice in your life for your benefit. So with this, I conclude here, and if you have any question, of course you can ask later after this program. So I conclude here. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.